Now you have learned about the El Niño Southern Oscillation. Here, let's move here. This is this is the sea surface temperature pattern that you get for El Niño events. So we just looked at the relative warming that you get from the central to the eastern intertropical Pacific Ocean. And you can also look at, well, how do La Nina events look like, and look at the temperature anomalies, and you get something like shown here. So during these events, you have more intensified upwelling, and you get a cold water anomaly in this area. Okay, in this area. So now, if you now look at the sea surface temperature anomalies, surface temperature anomalies in the entire Pacific Ocean, and you look at a time series of 100 years, there's something else that you discover. This is called the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. Okay, what you find is that on time scales of decades, you can have either a warm phase or a so-called positive phase, which is shown here, the sea surface temperature. And you can see it's remarkably similar to El Nino events, but there's a more pronounced cold water signature here in the north. The arrows are actually wind anomalies. Okay, anyway, or you can have decades. We're not talking about years now. We're talking about decades of where you have more cold water anomaly. This region. This is called the PDO. So how do you get this? So first of all, let me show you a time series. Okay, it's shown here in the bottom. Let's just follow this. I go along this time series. I look at it, and I can see in some years or some decades we more have a warm phase. Okay, in this region here. In other years we have more a cold phase. So you can see more of the blue. And then we have again more a warm phase. So from the 1980s. And nowadays we're moving back to the cold phase. So what does that mean? Okay, so what it actually means is, because the response of the ocean is relatively slow, and there are memory effects that you have in the ocean interior. So if you have now a decade where you have many El Nino events, okay, many subsequent El Nino events, you get actually a longer lasting temperature anomaly. Okay, so the warm phases actually show you the decades where you have many El Nino events. And the blue, the cold phases, are the decades where you have fewer El Nino events. And this has a consequence, or is believed to have a consequence, on the marine ecosystems, in particular on the fisheries. And we have a look at that on the next slide, all right?